The clock on the wall of Riverside Hospital's nurse station ticked past 5:30 p.m., and Maya Johnson felt every second of her 12-hour shift weighing on her shoulders. She rubbed the back of her neck, trying to ease the tension that had built up there. Working as a nurse for 8 years had taught her body to carry stress like an old friend. "You heading out now?" asked Diane, her co-worker with salt and pepper hair and reading glasses that always sat at the tip of her nose. "Finally," Maya said with a tired smile. "Got to pick up Zoe from my mom's place." Maya gathered her things from her locker, a worn purse, a lunch bag with an apple core inside, and her phone with 3 missed calls from the auto shop. She didn't want to think about what those calls meant. Her 10-year-old Honda had been making a horrible grinding noise for weeks, and the last estimate for repairs had made her stomach drop. Money was already tight since the hospital cut back hours for staff, and her daughter's school trip payment was due by Friday. Outside, the early October air carried a chill that hadn't been there that morning. Maya pulled her light jacket closer around her scrubs as she walked to the bus stop. Another expense she hadn't planned for: bus fare until her car was fixed. The bus was crowded with people heading home from work. Maya found a spot standing near the back, holding onto a metal pole. She checked her phone to see a text from her mother. "Zoe ate dinner already. Take your time." Maya felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Her mother had been her rock since Zoe's father left 6 years ago, never looking back. Between her nursing shifts and Zoe's school and activities, Maya rarely had a moment to herself. As the bus rolled through town, it passed by Riverside Diner, a small, family-owned place with windows that glowed warmly in the dimming light. Maya's stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since a hasty lunch at 11 a.m. On impulse, she pressed the stop request button. "I deserve a proper meal," she whispered to herself as she stepped off the bus. The smell of grilled onions and fresh coffee greeted her as she pushed open the diner's door, making her even hungrier. "Maya, haven't seen you in a while," called Betty, the owner's wife, from behind the counter. Her bright red lipstick matched the vinyl booths that lined the walls. "Been working double shifts," Maya replied, sliding into her usual spot by the window. "How's business?" "Can't complain," Betty said, pouring coffee without asking. She knew Maya took it with 1 sugar and a splash of cream. "The usual?" Maya nodded, grateful for places where she didn't have to explain herself. The turkey club sandwich and sweet potato fries had been the usual for years. As she waited for her food, Maya took out her phone and pulled up her banking app. The number stared back at her, unmoved by her silent pleading. After rent, groceries, and Zoe's school expenses, there wasn't much left for car repairs. She'd have to dip into the small emergency fund she'd been building. "Here you go, hun," Betty said, setting down the plate. The sandwich looked perfect, cut into triangles the way Maya liked. "Thanks, Betty, you're the best." As Maya took her first bite, the bell above the door jingled. An elderly man walked in slowly, using a wooden cane for support. His clothes were clean but worn, a plaid shirt tucked into khaki pants that hung loosely on his thin frame. His white hair was neatly combed, but his face showed deep lines of someone who had spent years working outdoors. Maya watched as he carefully made his way to a small table in the corner. There was something dignified about him despite his obvious struggle. He nodded politely to Betty, who greeted him with the same warmth she showed all her customers. "Evening, Mr. Harold. Coffee to start?" "Yes, please," he answered in a voice that crackled like autumn leaves. Maya returned to her meal, scrolling through her phone to check Zoe's school calendar. A note about an upcoming parent-teacher meeting caught her attention. More time she'd need to request off work. From the corner of her eye, she noticed the old man, Harold, opening a worn leather wallet. He pulled out a few bills and some coins, arranging them carefully on the table beside his menu. He counted them slowly, lips moving silently. Betty approached his table with a coffee pot. "Decided what you're having tonight?" Harold looked up with a gentle smile. "What's the soup today?" "Chicken noodle, homemade." "That sounds nice. And how much is it?" $3.95 for a cup, $5 to $50 for a bowl." Harold nodded, looking down at his small pile of money. "I'll take the cup, please." "And maybe just some bread?" Betty's smile never wavered, but Maya caught a flash of concern in her eyes. "The soup comes with bread, Mr. Harold. I'll bring you extra." "Thank you, dear." As Betty walked away, Harold carefully counted his money again. Maya couldn't help but notice his weathered hands shaking slightly. the blue veins standing out against paper-thin skin. Those were working hands. Hands that had built things, fixed things, held children and grandchildren. Maya felt a twinge in her chest. Despite her own money troubles, she had a steady job, a home, and family support. She watched as Harold sipped his coffee, looking out the window at the darkening street as if waiting for someone who might never come. Betty returned with a steaming cup of soup and a small basket with several pieces of bread. "Here you go. I threw in some cornbread too, it's fresh from this afternoon." "You're too kind," Harold said. "But I don't think I can—" "On the house," Betty interrupted. "We had extra." Maya knew that wasn't true. Betty and her husband Tom ran a tight ship, especially since the economy had slowed down. They weren't giving away food to everyone. Harold seemed to know it too. His eyes grew misty as he thanked Betty again. Something moved inside Maya, pushing past her tiredness and worry. Before she could think twice, she was on her feet, walking toward Harold's table. "Excuse me," she said softly. Harold looked up, surprised to see someone standing beside him. "I hope you don't mind, but I couldn't help overhearing. Would you allow me to buy your dinner tonight? Whatever you'd like to order?" The old man's face registered shock, then embarrassment. "Oh no, I couldn't possibly—" "Please," Maya said. "I'd really like to. My grandmother always said sharing a meal brings good luck." Harold looked at her closely as if trying to understand her motives. Maya stood patiently, her smile genuine. "That's very kind of you, young lady," he finally said. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely sure." Betty watched from behind the counter, a knowing smile on her face. "Well then," Harold said, his dignity intact, "I would love a proper dinner. I haven't had meatloaf in ages." "2 meatloaf specials, Betty," Maya called, sliding into the seat across from Harold. "I think I'll change my order too." "Coming right up," Betty replied, already heading to the kitchen. "I'm Maya," she said, extending her hand across the table. "Harold Winters," he replied, his handshake surprisingly firm. "Pleased to meet you, Maya. Same here. Do you live around here, Mr. Winters?" "Just Harold, please." "And yes, not too far. Over on Maple Street in the old Crawford building." Maya nodded. She knew the place, affordable apartments for seniors, basic but decent. "I've been there about 5 years now," Harold continued, "since my Catherine passed." "I'm sorry for your loss," Maya said softly. "Thank you. 47 years we had together. Not enough, but more than some get." There was no self-pity in his voice, just a simple statement of fact. Maya felt drawn to his quiet strength. "Do you have family nearby?" she asked. A shadow crossed Harold's face. "My son lives across town with his family. Busy man. Runs his own business now." The way he said it told Maya there was more to that story, but she didn't pry. Instead, she told him about Zoe, about her love for science and how she wanted to be a veterinarian. "Smart girl," Harold commented. "Takes after her mother, I'd guess." Maya laughed. "I hope so, though sometimes I don't feel very smart, especially when the bills pile up." She hadn't meant to mention her troubles, but something about Harold made it easy to talk. "Life has a way of testing us," he said. "I worked as a carpenter for 50 years. Built half the houses in this town, seems like. Never thought I'd be counting pennies for soup at my age." When their food arrived, the conversation flowed naturally. Harold told stories of his younger days, of houses he'd built and people he'd known. Maya shared funny stories from the hospital, carefully leaving out the stress and exhaustion. For that hour, Maya forgot about her car troubles, the cut hours, and all the responsibilities waiting at home. There was something refreshing about sitting with someone who asked nothing of her except conversation. When they finished eating, Maya insisted on paying despite Harold's protests. "You've given me something more valuable than a meal," she told him. "A reminder that sometimes the best part of life is just talking with someone new." Harold's eyes crinkled at the corners. "You're a special person, Maya Johnson. Don't let anyone tell you different." As they parted ways outside the diner, Harold tipped his worn cap. "Thank you for your kindness, young lady. In my experience, good things come to those who give without expecting anything in return." "It was my pleasure," Maya replied, meaning it. "Maybe I'll see you here again sometime." "I'd like that," Harold said with a nod before turning slowly toward the bus stop. Maya watched him go, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. As she pulled out her phone to call her mother, she had no way of knowing how this simple encounter would change her life by tomorrow morning. Aya's alarm blared at 5:30 a.m., and she reached out to silence it before it could wake Zoe in the next room. The morning was still dark, with only the faintest hint of dawn creeping around the edges of her curtains. She lay there for a moment, gathering her strength for another day. Her conversation with Harold kept replaying in her mind as she showered and dressed. There had been something special about that encounter, a connection she hadn't felt with a stranger in years. His gentle dignity, despite his circumstances, had touched something deep inside her. By 6:15, Maya was in the kitchen brewing coffee and packing Zoe's lunch. Peanut butter and banana sandwich, crusts cut off, apple slices, carrot sticks, and a small chocolate chip cookie she'd baked on Sunday. The routine was so familiar she could do it with her eyes closed. "Mom?" Zoe's sleepy voice came from the hallway. She stood there in her rocket ship pajamas, wild curls sticking out in all directions. "Hey, baby, you're up early." Maya smiled at her daughter, her heart filling with love. "I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about the science project. What if nobody likes it?" Maya put down the lunchbox and knelt in front of her daughter. At 10 years old, Zoe was already worrying about things Maya hadn't thought about until high school. "Your solar system model is amazing. Mrs. Chen is going to be impressed, and so will the other kids. But Tyler has a volcano that actually erupts." Maya gently tucked a curl behind Zoe's ear. "And that's cool too. But your project shows how the planets move around the sun in real time. You built a working model with motors and everything. That's not just cool, that's brilliant." Zoe's smile was small but genuine. "Thanks, Mom. Now go get dressed. We've got to leave early to drop off your project, and I still need to figure out how we're getting to school today." As Zoe padded back to her room, Maya pulled out her phone to check the bus schedule. She could drop Zoe at school and then take another bus to the hospital, but it would be cutting it close. Maybe she could ask her neighbor for a ride just this once. The sound of a vehicle pulling into their driveway interrupted her thoughts. "That's weird," Maya muttered, moving to the kitchen window. Nobody ever came by this early. Through the gray morning light, she could make out the outline of a truck, a pickup truck idling in her driveway. For a moment, she felt a flash of unease. Living alone with Zoe had made her cautious about unexpected visitors, especially at odd hours. She watched as the truck's headlights switched off and the driver's side door opened. A man stepped out, middle-aged, wearing dark blue overalls and a baseball cap. He looked around, then reached back into the truck for something. "Mom? Who's that?" Zoe had appeared beside her, now dressed in jeans and her favorite purple sweater. "I don't know, sweetie. Stay here while I check." Maya moved to the front door, turning on the porch light. Through the peephole, she watched as the man approached, carrying what looked like an envelope. He didn't look threatening, but these days you could never be too careful. "Who is it?" she called through the door. "Morning, ma'am. My name's Frank Wilson from Wilson & Sons Auto. I have a delivery for Maya Johnson." Maya frowned. Wilson & Sons was one of the most respected auto shops in town, but she'd never taken her car there. Couldn't afford their rates. There must be some mistake. "I didn't order anything." "No mistake, ma'am. I was asked to deliver this truck and this envelope to you. Could you please open the door?" "I promise I'm not selling anything." Curiosity got the better of her. Maya unlocked the door but kept the chain on, opening it just enough to see the man's face clearly. "See? Just Frank," he said with a friendly smile, holding up a business card in the envelope. His weathered face looked honest, with laugh lines around his eyes. Maya closed the door, removed the chain, and opened it fully, though she remained in the doorway. Zoe peeked around her legs. "I'm Maya Johnson, but there has to be some misunderstanding. I didn't order a truck." Frank handed her the envelope. "This should explain everything. And these are for you too." He held out a set of keys with a small wooden keychain attached. Maya stared at the keys, making no move to take them. "I don't understand." "The truck is paid for, ma'am. Registration, insurance, everything. It's all taken care of for the next year. There's a folder in the glove compartment with all the paperwork." "Paid for? By who?" Frank shrugged. "I'm just making the delivery. All the information I have is in that envelope. The truck is a 2020 Ford F-150. Excellent condition, just serviced and detailed yesterday. It's got about 40,000 miles on it, but runs like new." Maya looked past Frank at the red pickup gleaming in her driveway. In the growing light, she could see it was indeed in beautiful condition. "Mom, someone gave you a truck?" Zoe was bouncing with excitement now. I think so, baby. But I don't know why." Frank held out the keys again. "Well, it's definitely for you. And I need to get going. Got 3 more deliveries this morning." Hesitantly, Maya took the keys. They felt heavy in her hand. "Thank you," she said automatically, still bewildered. "You're welcome. Have a good day now." Frank tipped his cap and walked back toward a small company car parked on the street that Maya hadn't noticed before. As he drove away, Maya and Zoe stood in the doorway, staring at the pickup truck in their driveway. "Are you going to open the letter, Mom?" Maya looked down at the envelope in her hand. It was plain white, with just her name written on it in neat handwriting. She broke the seal and pulled out a single sheet of paper. "What does it say?" Zoe asked, trying to peek. Maya read the words aloud, her voice growing shakier with each line. "To the kind soul who sees worth in those the world has forgotten. This truck is paid for, no strings attached. Your generosity touched me deeply. Consider this not charity, but the universe returning balance. A grateful heart. Mom." "Are you crying?" Maya touched her cheek and felt wetness there. She hadn't even realized tears had formed. "Happy tears, baby. I think this is from the man I met at the diner last night." "What man?" Maya tucked the note back into the envelope. "I'll tell you about him on the way to school. Right now, we need to check out our new truck." They approached the vehicle cautiously, almost as if it might disappear if they moved too quickly. The morning sun was rising now, catching the red paint and making it glow. Maya ran her hand along the side. "Smooth, solid, real. It's so pretty," Zoe exclaimed. "Can we ride in it to school today?" Maya inserted the key into the driver's side door and opened it. The interior smelled new, clean leather and something faintly pine-scented. The seats were gray with enough room in the back for Zoe and all her friends. On the dashboard was another envelope. "There's another note," Maya said, reaching for it. Inside was a business card for Winters Construction and another handwritten note. "The gas tank is full. Drive safely. If you ever need any work done on the truck, Wilson & Sons will take care of it. Just call Frank. And don't worry about your old Honda. It's been taken care of too." Maya sat down in the driver's seat, feeling the leather conform to her body. The steering wheel was smooth under her fingers. She couldn't remember the last time she'd driven a vehicle this nice. "Can I sit up front with you?" Zoe asked, already climbing in the passenger side. "Just this once," Maya said, helping her with the seatbelt. "But you're back in the rear seat tomorrow." Maya adjusted her mirrors and seat, trying to wrap her mind around what was happening. Who was Harold, really? The note mentioned Winters Construction, and he'd said his last name was Winters. Could he own a construction company? But he'd been counting pennies for soup. None of it made sense. But as she started the engine and heard its powerful purr, Maya decided that maybe it didn't need to make sense right now. "Mom, we have time to get donuts on the way to school now, right? Since we don't have to take the bus." Maya laughed, feeling lighter than she had in months. "Yes, we have time for donuts." As they backed out of the driveway, Maya noticed their neighbor, Mrs. Collins, watching from her window, mouth hanging open in surprise. Maya waved and couldn't help the small surge of pride she felt. The truck handled beautifully as they drove through town. Zoe chatted excitedly about showing her friends our new truck, while Maya's mind raced with questions. After dropping Zoe and her science project at school, Maya sat in the parking lot, rereading both notes. She needed to find Harold, to thank him if this was indeed from him, or to return the truck if there was some misunderstanding. She remembered he'd said he lived in the Crawford building on Maple Street. Maybe she could stop by there before work. The hospital was only a few blocks away. As she drove toward Maple Street, Maya thought about her conversation with Harold. He hadn't seemed like a wealthy man, but there had been something in his manner, a quiet confidence that spoke of a different life than the one he appeared to be living. The Crawford building was a modest apartment, complex for seniors, clean and well-maintained, but certainly not luxurious. Maya parked the truck and walked to the entrance, realizing she didn't know Harold's apartment number. A gray-haired woman was tending the small flower beds near the door. "Excuse me," Maya said. "I'm looking for Harold Winters. Do you know which apartment is his?" The woman straightened up slowly, one hand on her lower back. "Harold? He's in 3B, but he usually walks in the park this time of morning. Been his routine for years." "Thank you," Maya said. "The park across the street?" "That's the one. Can't miss him. Always wears that old brown cap." Maya headed toward the park, her mind swirling with questions. Who was Harold Winters, really? And why would he give her a truck after one simple dinner? The park was quiet in the early morning light. A few joggers made their rounds on the walking path, and an older couple strolled hand in hand near the small pond. Maya scanned the benches, looking for Harold's familiar brown cap. She spotted him on a bench beneath a large oak tree, tossing breadcrumbs to a gathering of eager squirrels and birds. Even from a distance, there was something peaceful about him, like he belonged exactly where he was, doing exactly what he was doing. Maya approached slowly, not wanting to startle him or the animals. As if sensing her presence, Harold looked up and smiled. Maya Johnson. What a pleasant surprise. Good morning, Mr. Winters. Maya sat down beside him, noticing how the squirrels barely scattered at her arrival. They clearly knew Harold well, just Harold, remember? He offered her some breadcrumbs. Would you like to feed them? The red one there, I call him Rusty. He's the bravest of the bunch. Maya took a few crumbs and tossed them toward the waiting squirrel. They know you. I'm here most mornings. Animals are good company. They don't care if your shoes are polished or what kind of car you drive. He paused, his eyes twinkling. Or what kind of truck, for that matter. There it was, confirmation. Maya turned to face him directly. It was you, wasn't it? The truck that showed up in my driveway this morning. Harold scattered the last of his breadcrumbs before answering. Did you like it? Frank said that model has good safety ratings. Important for a mother with a young daughter. Harold, I can't accept a truck from you. It's too much. We barely know each other. Sometimes, Harold said softly, you can know a person's heart in a single moment better than others you've known for years. Maya shook her head, still struggling to make sense of it all. But why? I only bought you dinner. Harold turned to look at her, his face serious now. You did more than buy me dinner, Maya. You saw me, really saw me, when most people look right through old men like me. You treated me with dignity, not pity. That doesn't explain a brand new truck. Harold sighed, looking out across the park. The morning sun filtered through the leaves above them, casting dappled shadows on the ground. I suppose I owe you the full story. He adjusted his cap. I wasn't entirely truthful last night. I do live in the Crawford building, and I am a widower, but I'm not poor. Maya listened, confused but curious. Winters Construction, you may have seen the name around town. Big buildings, shopping centers, housing developments. Of course. They built the new wing at the hospital where I work. Maya's eyes widened as understanding dawned. Are you saying? I founded the company in 1972 with nothing but a toolbox and a second-hand pickup truck. Harold's voice carried a hint of pride. Built it from the ground up. My son David runs things now. Has for the past 10 years since I retired. But last night at the diner you were counting change for soup. Harold's weathered face crinkled into a sad smile. After Catherine died, I found myself rattling around in our big house alone. David wanted me to move in with his family, but I needed my independence. So I gave him the house, donated most of my things, and took a small apartment. He leaned back on the bench. I kept enough money to live comfortably, but I gave most of it away, to charities, to employees who'd been loyal all those years. But I found that money created a barrier between me and real life. People treated me differently when they knew I had money. So you pretend to be poor? Maya asked, trying to keep judgment from her voice. Not exactly. I live simply by choice. But sometimes I like to see how people treat someone they think has nothing to offer them. He looked at her directly. Most ignore me. Some pity me. Very few see me as a person worthy of their time and respect. Maya remembered their conversation at the diner. How easily they had talked. How she had shared her own struggles. You were testing me, she said quietly. Harold shook his head. Not testing, observing. There's a difference. I had no expectations when I walked into that diner. But what you did, the way you did it, it moved me. Maya. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn photograph of a young black woman in a nurse's uniform from decades ago. This was Catherine in 1968 when we first met. She was a nurse too. Faced discrimination from patients, from doctors, even from other nurses. But she never let it harden her heart? His voice grew thick with emotion. She would have liked you very much. Maya felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She sounds wonderful. She was. And she taught me to recognize goodness when I see it. Harold tucked the photo away carefully. The truck isn't charity, Maya. It's recognition of who you are and what you do for others even when you're struggling yourself. Maya sat in silence, processing his words. Part of her still wanted to refuse the gift. It was too much, too extravagant. But another part understood what Harold was saying. This wasn't about money. It was about connection. I don't know what to say, she finally admitted. Say you'll accept it. Say you'll use it to make your life a little easier. And maybe once in a while, you'll stop by the diner and have dinner with an old man who enjoys your company. A jogger ran past, breaking the moment. Maya checked her watch. She had 20 minutes before her shift started. I need to get to work, she said. But I have so many questions. Harold stood, leaning slightly on his cane. How about dinner tonight? Same place? I promise I'll pay this time. His eyes twinkled with mischief. Maya couldn't help but laugh. Deal? But I'm still processing all this, so take your time. I'm not going anywhere. As they walked together toward the park exit, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. The driver's window rolled down, revealing a middle-aged man in an expensive suit. Dad, I've been calling you all morning. Your phone's off again, Harold sighed. David, I'm fine. Just enjoying the morning. David's eyes narrowed as he noticed Maya. Who's this? This is my friend Maya Johnson. Maya, this is my son David. David barely acknowledged her with a nod before turning back to his father. We have that foundation meeting at 10. You promised you'd be there, and I will be. Pick me up at 9:30 at my apartment. I'm having a conversation right now. David looked like he wanted to say more, but instead checked his expensive watch. Fine. 9:30, don't forget to charge your phone. He drove off without another word. Sorry about that, Harold said. He worries, he cares, Maya corrected gently. That's a good thing. They reached the park entrance where the red pickup was parked. Harold stopped to admire it. It suits you, he said. Practical but with a bit of style. Maya ran her hand along the shiny door. It's the nicest thing I've ever owned. Well, get used to nice things, Maya Johnson. You deserve them. As they prepared to part ways, Maya was struck by a thought. Wait, how did you arrange all this so quickly? We only met last night. Harold's eyes twinkled. When you've been in business as long as I have, you make connections. One phone call to Frank Wilson, whose father I gave a chance to when no one else would hire him. Another to my lawyer to handle the paperwork. The truck was already on Frank's lot, he just needed to detail it and deliver it. And my old Honda? The note said it was taken care of? Being fixed as we speak. Consider it a backup vehicle or something for Zoe when she's old enough to drive. Maya shook her head in amazement. All this for a turkey sandwich and some conversation. Harold placed a gentle hand on her arm. No, Maya. All this because in a world where people walk past suffering without a second glance, you stopped. You saw value in an old man that others dismissed. That kind of heart deserves recognition. A lump formed in Maya's throat. Thank you, Harold. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You already have. He stepped back and tipped his cap. Now get to work. People need you. As Maya drove to the hospital, her mind spun with the morning's revelations. The man she had pitied was actually wealthy beyond her imagination. The simple dinner she had bought had somehow been worth a brand new truck to him. But more than that, she felt a connection to Harold and Catherine's story that resonated deep within her. Two people who had faced the world's indifference and chosen kindness instead. When she pulled into the hospital parking lot, several of her co-workers stopped to stare at the new truck. Diane, her friend from the nurse's station, let out a low whistle. Maya Johnson. Where did this come from? For a moment, Maya considered telling her everything. But something held her back. The story felt too precious, too personal to share just yet. Let's just say I made a new friend, she replied with a smile. I'll tell you all about it someday. As she walked into the hospital, Maya felt different. Lighter somehow, as if Harold's gift wasn't just the truck, but a reminder that kindness mattered, that she mattered. And for the first time in a long while, she was looking forward to what tomorrow might bring. Maya's shift at the hospital passed in a blur. Her mind kept drifting back to Harold, the truck, and their strange but touching connection. As she checked vital signs and administered medications, she found herself wondering about the life Harold had lived, building a construction company from nothing, loving Catherine for all those years, choosing simplicity when he could have had luxury. Earth to Maya, Diane said, waving a hand in front of her face. That's the second time I've asked you for Mrs. Rodriguez's chart. Sorry, Maya handed over the clipboard. I've got a lot on my mind today. Diane raised an eyebrow. Does it have anything to do with that shiny new truck you drove up in this morning? The whole nursing staff is buzzing about it. Maya felt her cheeks warm. It's a long story. Well, I've got my lunch break in 10 minutes. Why don't you join me and tell me all about it? Part of Maya wanted to keep Harold's story to herself, but Diane had been her friend for years. They'd supported each other through difficult shifts, personal losses, and rare victories. Okay, she agreed, but you might not believe me. 20 minutes later, they sat in the hospital cafeteria, Diane's turkey sandwich forgotten as Maya recounted her meeting with Harold and the surprise delivery that morning. Wait, Diane interrupted, her eyes wide. You're telling me this old man you bought dinner for is Harold Winters? The Harold Winters? As in Winters Construction built half the town Harold Winters. Maya nodded. I couldn't believe it either. Girl, that man is worth millions. His company built this hospital wing, the new library, that fancy apartment complex downtown. Diane shook her head in amazement. And he just gave you a truck? It sounds crazy when you say it out loud. It's not crazy. Diane searched for the right word. It's like something from a movie. The kind that makes you cry, but in a good way. Maya laughed softly. That's one way to look at it. So what happens now? We're having dinner tonight. At the same diner. Diane leaned forward, suddenly serious. Maya, you need to be careful. I know this seems wonderful, but people don't just give away trucks, even rich people. There could be strings attached that you don't see yet. Maya thought about Harold's gentle eyes. The way he'd spoken about Catherine. The dignity in his posture even when he thought he couldn't afford soup. I don't think that's who he is. But I'll be careful. The afternoon dragged on. Maya checked the clock every few minutes, both eager for and nervous about her dinner with Harold. By the time her shift ended, a light rain had started to fall, tapping gently against the hospital windows. The truck handled beautifully on the wet roads as Maya drove to her mother's house to pick up Zoe. She still couldn't quite believe it was hers. Her mother, Loretta, was waiting at the door, eyes wide as Maya pulled into the driveway. Whose truck is that? She asked as soon as Maya stepped onto the porch. Mine, apparently. Maya gave her mother a quick hug. Is Zoe ready? I need to drop her off at home with a sitter. I have plans tonight. Loretta crossed her arms, her expression a mixture of concern and curiosity. Not until you tell me what's going on. Zoe's been talking about a magical truck all day, and now you show up in this? Where did it come from? Maya sighed. It's complicated, Mama. I've got time. So for the second time that day, Maya told the story of Harold Winters. Her mother listened without interrupting, her expression changing from skeptical to astonished. Lord have mercy, she whispered when Maya finished. Things like this don't happen to regular folks like us. That's what I thought too. But it happened. Maya checked her watch. I need to get going. I'm meeting him for dinner at 7. Loretta's eyes narrowed. You're not thinking this is romantic, are you? He's got to be 30 years older than you. Mama, no. Maya felt her face flush. It's not like that at all. He's just, I don't know. He said I reminded him of his late wife. I think he's lonely. Loretta's expression softened. Well, that I can understand. Since Maya's father had passed away 5 years ago, Loretta had often spoken about the particular ache of loneliness that came with losing a spouse. Zoe bounded into the room, wearing a raincoat and carrying her backpack. Mom, Grandma said we can make cookies this weekend. Can we, please? Of course, baby. Maya smiled, grateful for her daughter's perfect timing. But now we need to go. I have a special dinner tonight. With the truck man? Maya laughed. Yes, with the truck man. And his name is Mr. Winters. After dropping Zoe off with their teenage neighbor who often babysat, Maya drove to Riverside Diner. The rain had picked up, drumming on the truck's roof as she parked. She spotted Harold already inside, sitting at a booth near the window. Same as before, but everything different. The bell above the door jingled as she entered. Harold looked up and smiled, rising slightly from his seat as she approached. An old-fashioned gesture that spoke of a different era. You came, he said, as if he'd been worried she might not. Of course. Maya slid into the booth across from him. I keep my promises. Betty approached with her coffee pot and a knowing smile. Well, look who's back together. The usual, Maya? Yes, please. And put it on my bill this time, she added with a pointed look at Harold. Harold chuckled. I'm afraid Betty won't let either of us pay tonight. She's already informed me that dinner is on the house. Betty winked. Tom and I have our own way of thanking good people. Your orders will be out soon. She walked away, leaving them alone. An awkward silence fell between them. Yesterday they had been strangers. a kind nurse and a seemingly poor old man. Today everything had changed. This feels strange, Maya finally admitted. Yesterday I was worried about bus fare, and today I'm driving a brand new truck. Harold nodded. Life can change in an instant. Sometimes for the worse, but sometimes, he gestured between them, sometimes for the better. I still feel like I should refuse the truck. It's too much. Would it help if I told you it wasn't just about our dinner last night? Harold leaned forward. After you left, I called my son. I was curious about you, so I asked him to find out more about Maya Johnson, nurse at Riverside Hospital. Maya's eyes widened. You investigated me? Not in a sinister way, Harold hurried to explain. David knows the hospital administrator. He made a few calls. Turns out you've been nominated for the Compassionate Care Award 3 years running. Your patients request you specifically. You volunteer at the free clinic on your days off. Maya shifted uncomfortably. I'm just doing my job. No, Harold shook his head firmly. You go above and beyond. Just like you did with me. The truck isn't payment for one dinner, Maya. It's recognition of who you are every day. Their food arrived. Meatloaf special for both of them this time. As they ate, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Harold told stories about building the town's first shopping mall in the 1980s. Maya shared funny anecdotes about Zoe's adventures in 4th grade. By the time they finished their apple pie, the awkwardness had dissolved, replaced by the easy rapport they'd established the night before. I have a proposition for you, Harold said as Betty refilled their coffee cups. Another truck? Maya asked with a smile. Nothing quite so dramatic. More of a partnership. Harold stirred cream into his coffee. David and I run a foundation, the Catherine Winters Foundation, named after my wife. We provide support to working families, particularly single parents. Maya waited, sensing there was more. We've been looking to start a new program, mobile health care for construction workers and their families. Many of them avoid going to the doctor because they can't afford to take time off. But a nurse who could visit job sites, do basic checkups, help with medication. You want me to run this program? Maya asked, surprised. I want you to help me design it. Your experience as a nurse combined with my knowledge of construction sites, I think we could create something valuable. His eyes lit up as he spoke. We would pay you, of course. It could start as a part-time position, so you could keep your hospital job if you wanted. Maya's mind raced with possibilities. She'd often thought about how healthcare could be more accessible, particularly for working-class families like the ones she'd grown up with. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. That's all I ask. Harold pushed a business card across the table. This has my personal number. Call me when you've had time to consider it. As they prepared to leave, the rain outside had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the streetlights. Can I drive you home? Maya offered. Thank you, but David is picking me up. We have some foundation business to discuss. Harold glanced out the window. That's him now. The same black car from that morning was parked outside. Maya could see David watching them through the window, his expression unreadable. He doesn't seem to like me much, Maya observed. Harold sighed. David is protective. He's seen people try to take advantage of me before. I'm not. I know that, Harold interrupted gently, and he'll know it too once he gets to know you. He reached across the table and patted her hand. Don't worry about David, he'll come around. As they walked out together, David stepped out of the car. His expression was guarded, but he extended his hand to Maya. Ms. Johnson, my father speaks highly of you. Nice to meet you properly. Mr. Winters. Maya shook his hand, noting his firm grip and expensive watch. David, please. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. I understand my father has offered you a position with our foundation. We're discussing possibilities, Harold corrected. Nothing's been decided. David nodded, his gaze calculating as he looked at Maya. Well, I look forward to hearing your thoughts. My father's judgment of character is rarely wrong. The words were polite, but Maya sensed the underlying message. I'm watching you. I should get going, she said. Zoe's with a sitter. Harold's face brightened. Your daughter. You must bring her to meet me sometime. Does she like ice cream? There's a wonderful shop near the park. All kids like ice cream, Maya laughed. And yes, I'll bring her soon. As Maya drove home, she felt like she was living in a dream. 24 hours ago, she had been a struggling single mother with car troubles and money worries. Now she had a new truck, a potential new job, and an unlikely friendship with one of the town's wealthiest citizens. But David's cool reception nagged at her. She understood his caution. If someone had suddenly appeared in her mother's life, she would be suspicious too. One day at a time, she told herself as she pulled into her driveway. Just take it one day at a time. 3 months had passed since that rainy evening at Riverside Diner. The winter chill had settled over town, dusting the streets with occasional snow that never seemed to last. Maya sat in her red pickup truck, reviewing her checklist for the day's visits. The truck's heater hummed softly, keeping her warm as she waited outside the winter's construction site on the edge of town. After 2 weeks of careful consideration, Maya had accepted Harold's offer to help design and run the mobile healthcare program through the Catherine Winters Foundation. She now split her time between the hospital and the foundation, using the red truck for both transportation and as a mobile clinic. The passenger door opened, letting in a blast of cold air as Harold climbed in, his movements slower than they had been in summer but still remarkably spry for his age. "Morning. Maya," he said, rubbing his gloved hands together. "Bitter cold today. Good morning." She handed him a thermos of coffee. "Made it just how you like it, little cream, no sugar." Harold accepted it with a grateful nod. "You're too good to me." Just returning the favor. Maya put the truck in drive and pulled away from the construction site. "How's the community center coming along?" "On schedule for now, but this weather might slow us down." Harold took a sip of coffee. David's worried about meeting the spring deadline. Maya had come to know David better over the past months. His initial suspicion had gradually softened as he watched her work tirelessly to develop the healthcare program. They weren't exactly friends, but they had reached a place of mutual respect. "Your son works too hard," Maya said, navigating through the morning traffic. "Takes after his father, I guess." Harold chuckled. Catherine used to say the same thing. "Speaking of hard workers, how was Zoe's science fair yesterday?" "Sorry I couldn't make it. She won first place." Maya couldn't keep the pride from her voice. Her project on how plants respond to different types of music was a hit. She's already planning next year's experiment. "That girl's going to change the world someday," Harold said, just like her mother. Maya smiled but kept her eyes on the road. Their first stop was the Henderson construction site, where a new apartment complex was taking shape. 20 workers would be waiting for their monthly health checkups, blood pressure readings, diabetes screenings, medication refills, and treatment for minor injuries. What had started as a simple idea over dinner had grown into something truly special. The Catherine Winters Mobile Health Initiative now served over 200 construction workers and their families across 5 different sites, with plans to expand further in the spring. They pulled into the construction site, where a temporary break area had been set up in a heated tent. Workers in hard hats and heavy coats nodded in greeting as Maya and Harold entered. "The nurse is here," someone called out, and men and women began lining up, some looking relieved, others a bit nervous. Maya had learned that many of them hadn't seen a healthcare provider in years before she started coming around. Harold made his way to the corner of the tent, where wooden shelves held medical supplies. He'd built them himself, insisting that he needed to contribute more than just money to the program. Despite David's protests about his father doing manual labor at his age, Harold spent many weekends working with tools, creating storage solutions for Maya's growing mobile clinic. Maya set up her station efficiently, calling forward the first worker, a young man with a badly bandaged hand. "Let me see that." "Luis," she said gently. "It's nothing. Ms. Johnson, just a scratch from yesterday." Maya carefully unwrapped the dirty bandage to reveal a deep cut that was starting to show signs of infection. "This is definitely not just a scratch. How did this happen?" As Luis explained about the accident with a saw, Maya cleaned and properly dressed the wound, then gave him antibiotics from their supplies. "You need to keep this clean and dry. Come back tomorrow so I can check it. And next time, don't wait to get proper treatment." "That's what we're here for," the young man nodded, looking embarrassed but grateful. Throughout the morning, Maya saw dozens of patients with various needs: an older worker with uncontrolled hypertension, a forewoman with chronic back pain, a new hire who needed his asthma medication refilled but couldn't afford the doctor's visit to get a prescription. For each one, she provided care, advice, and when necessary, a referral to the free clinic where she still volunteered on weekends. Harold moved among the workers too, not as a wealthy businessman, but as one of them. listening to their stories, remembering their names and families. By noon, they had seen everyone who needed attention. As they packed up their supplies, the site manager approached. "Ms. Johnson, Mr. Winters, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. Rodriguez over there." He nodded toward an older worker eating lunch in the corner. "He found out he has diabetes last month because of your testing. Got him on medication right away. Probably saved his life." Harold shook the man's hand. "We're just doing what should have been done years ago. These people build our town. They deserve care." As they loaded the last of the supplies into the truck, Maya noticed Harold was quieter than usual, his movements more deliberate, as if each one required extra thought. "You okay?" she asked as they sat in the truck. Harold nodded slowly. "Just thinking about Catherine. Today would have been our anniversary, 52 years. Maya reached over and squeezed his hand. "She would be proud of this. Of what you've created in her name." "What we've created," Harold corrected. "I had the money, but you had the heart and the skill to make it real." He looked out the window at the construction site. "You know, I built my first apartment complex on this very spot back in 1975. Tore it down myself 10 years ago when it got too old. Promised the town we'd build something better. Life comes full circle sometimes." They drove to their next stop, a smaller renovation project downtown. The routine was similar. Checkups, treatments, conversations, connections. By late afternoon, they had visited 3 sites and helped dozens of people. "Last stop?" Harold asked as they packed up again. "Actually, I was thinking we could go to the diner. For old time's sake." Maya smiled. "It's been exactly 3 months since you gave me the truck." "Has it now?" "Time flies when you're doing good work." Harold looked pleased with the suggestion. "Betty will be happy to see us." The diner was quiet in the late afternoon lull between lunch and dinner. Betty greeted them warmly, ushering them to what had become their booth near the window. "The usual for both of you?" she asked. "Yes, please." They answered in unison, then laughed at their synchronization. As Betty walked away, Maya took a small wrapped package from her purse and placed it on the table. "I got you something." "To say thank you?" Harold looked surprised. "You didn't need to do that. I wanted to." "Open it." Harold carefully unwrapped the gift to reveal a handmade wooden picture frame. Inside was a photo of Harold with Maya and Zoe at the park, all 3 smiling broadly, with the red pickup truck visible in the background. Burned into the wood along the bottom were the words, "Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's who shows up when you need them most." Harold ran his fingers over the inscription, his eyes misting over. "Did you make this?" "The frame, yes. Zoe helped with the wood burning. She's been taking lessons from the art teacher at school." "It's beautiful," Harold whispered. "Thank you." "The truck changed my life," Maya said softly. "But not nearly as much as your friendship has." "I think we changed each other's lives," Harold replied. "Before I met you, I was just an old man feeding squirrels and pretending my wealth didn't exist. You reminded me that money is only valuable when it's put to good use." Betty arrived with their meatloaf specials, but seemed to sense the moment between them and quietly set down the plates without interrupting. "I have some news," Maya said after Betty left. "The hospital administrator called this morning. They want to partner with the foundation to expand the mobile clinic program to other industries. Farm workers, factory employees, cleaning staff. They're offering grants, additional nurses, even a dedicated doctor 1 day a week." Harold's face lit up. "That's wonderful." "David will be thrilled. He's been looking for ways to expand the foundation's reach. There's more," Maya continued. "They want me to run it full time. It would mean leaving my hospital position, but I could reach so many more people. Are you going to accept?" Maya nodded. "I already did. I start next month." Harold reached across the table and took her hand. "Catherine always said that when you help someone rise, you rise along with them. 3 months ago, you helped an old man who couldn't afford soup. Now you're going to help hundreds of people who can't afford health care. All because of a meal in a pickup truck," Maya said with a smile. Outside the diner window, the red truck gleamed in the late afternoon sun. What had once been just an unexpected gift had become a symbol of something much larger. The ripple effect of kindness, the power of seeing value in others, the way lives could intertwine and change each other forever. As they finished their meal, Harold raised his coffee cup. "To new beginnings." Maya clinked her cup against his. and to the journeys that bring us together. In that moment, in that simple diner where their story had begun, they both knew that some connections were meant to be. That sometimes, the family you find along the way is just as important as the one you're born into, and that kindness, once set in motion, could grow into something neither of them could have imagined on that ordinary evening 3 months ago, when a black woman had paid for a meal for a poor old man who wasn't poor at all.